Hi, my name is Brenda, and this is part 2 of my creation project, where I will dive into the details of my fitness center, Mountain View Movement. So the slogan for Mountain View Movement is Fitness That Fits You. Our little mission statement is here as a blurb, but basically it just reflects on the fact that we want to be a very inclusive and community-centered fitness center. I want it to be appealing to many people and basically just promote an overall holistic and grounded approach to movement involving nature and just kind of what feels correct to an individual. Just kind of also highlighting that there are various types of movement and how it can be fun. Like, it does not have to be torture. We also want to emphasize the fact that movement and exercise wellness is not one size fits all. And we also just kind of want to highlight the goal of wanting to grow together as a community. So as far as services, the goal is to provide various services like of all types, really just spanning, but they overall just fit into these 3 big categories here. We've got like general gym space, which is just like a traditional gym where there is equipment like treadmills, ellipticals, rowers, stationary bikes, and so on. Sometimes used for classes, sometimes just for individual working out. There are also spaces like indoors and outdoors. Outdoors being like grassy areas and like a balcony porch kind of setting, just to kind of get fresh air and to really, again, driving in the holistic approach of how nature can be grounding and healing for people. Additionally, there are going to be some like private fitness rooms available, since I know sometimes people can be a little shy when they get started in working out, or it's also available for like the personal training, especially like the one-on-one stuff. There will also be classes available with a certain like standard classes that have a routine schedule. And then as a subtype of this category, we do have like personal training. But basically like the routine classes might be like Monday nights is going to be dance and yoga on Tuesdays or something like that. The goal would be to have adult classes and like youth classes maybe at the same time, because I do know that childcare is a big barrier for some people who want to get involved in physical activity and they might not be able to kind of work around childcare. So that way, you 2 birds, 1 stone, the kid's moving, parent also is free to do their own classes or working out. There would also be like special monthly events that kind of add novelty to what members can do, but I will kind of touch on that later. And then last category is community events. So things like 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons, field days, and so on. Ultimately for that, the point is that we want the community members to get together and support each other. This is also going to work as a promotional program of sorts for like the fitness center, especially because some of these events will just be open to the public. So we might have like benefits of like having joining fees waived and varied prices and so on. So speaking of pricing, the strategy is that overall, obviously, we want to make a profit, we want to keep the lights on, we want to stay in business, but we want to also just emphasize the goal and the mission, which is to promote health and wellness for the community, which means making it as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. Accessibility and barriers that kind of stand in the way of wellness can be multiple factors. It can be financial and it can be time related. We also talked about childcare previously, but additionally from that, like, people may not have a bunch of money to spend on memberships, or they might not be able to use a membership for as often as they'd like, and maybe they just want to trial things. There's a lot of barriers and we just want to eliminate as many as possible. I'll break down the pricing a little further, a little more into the further slides, but I did just kind of want to mention that they are divided in like memberships, personal training, drop-ins, and class passes. So the first standard one is just memberships, like any routine gym that you would join. It's basically divided into tiers, depends on like age ranges and the number of people that are signing up. So like an individual versus a family. And there are obviously like differences in terms of like we want to get younger people involved. So it might be a little cheaper for like under 21-year-olds and stuff, and then for seniors as well, it might be a little cheaper. And then for families, even though obviously it's bigger up front, it is still just smaller per person price wise. But There is also going to be like a discount for students and faculty of App State because it is Boone, so we have to promote that. And then for members, basically, it includes like unlimited gym time, unlimited classes, and then there's discounted rates on like personal training events and merch, which we will get into later. The pricing for this, like the rationale is that I just kind of based it on what other similar gyms like the YMCA kind of charge, and then just added some dollars to kind of correlate with like median prices in the US and to accommodate any additional features that we might be providing. The other three categories are the personal training, class pass, and drop-ins. The personal training is divided into two, which is for like members and non-members. I understand that people may not want to come do the gym on their own. They just want a trainer. So that is basically like a per session charge. Because we are paying the trainer, we are not able to waive the fee fully even for members. It is just a discounted rate. And then there's like two ways of kind of approaching this, where we have solo sessions, which is just one-on-one, and it is going to be more expensive just because it is more one-on-one time with you. But then there's the buddy session where you are there with maximum 2 other people, so max 3, and it's just you're all kind of working out, doing personal training, and the personal trainer is kind of hopping around, but you're all doing your individual things, if that makes sense. This kind of just allows for a cheaper personal training opportunity. It allows for like friends to kind of come in together and pitch in to work out together, or maybe meet other people who are working on similar goals. The class pass here in the middle is just for people who may only want to take classes or kind of test the waters to see how they like it. It's also reflective of the fact that some people have limited time of what they can do, and they don't want to shell out necessarily like all the money for a month-long membership and just come once or something. So you'd be able to buy a class pass for a number of like the class credits, so like 5 classes, 10 classes, 20 classes, and then the prices kind of vary. And then there's like discounts the more you buy. And then they're valid for like a certain number of months, which you can see there on the rightmost column. And then, like I mentioned previously, classes are going to be standard, so it's like yoga, self-defense, but there's also going to be like specialty classes, things that make it novel to like come in, work out, and really get more engagement. So fun things like, I don't know, like glow-in-the-dark dance classes, kind of like a rave night or something. And then lastly, we have drop-in availability for more people who are wanting just kind of like to drop in every now and again. They don't want the full membership. They just want to show up once every 6 months because a class or like an event seems interesting. Or maybe they work out at home and they just want to use our equipment every now and again, and it's just better for them to do this. The drop-in for the classes are higher because we're still paying an instructor, and there's going to be some like help there versus gym time. It's just you're coming in to use our equipment. And then here I will say the private rooms are not available for like drop-in availability. It's just members only, or like the personal training people. And then availability for like if you can come in and drop in is just based on if like the class is full or the gym is full, and so on. And then as far as 2 other things, we also have varied prices. I've got it in the corner here for community events. So if we're doing, for example, like a 5K for fundraising, the sign-up fee might be like $20 or something, and field day, if it's more to like get the community involved and just kind of do like a fun event, it might be like a pay what you can. These fees are then waived for members. And then lastly, I've mentioned this in like the last bullet point of a lot of these, but there is an app that people who use our gym would be able to use, which I will get into the next slide. So here's like a little mock-up of what the app would look like. It is MVM, so Mountain View Movement. And here you would basically utilize it for scheduling classes and also just looking at the class schedules to see what is available when. You'd be able to schedule training and get reminders for these events, kind of like you can see here, self-defense class with Lara. You'd be able to track habits, goals, and so on. So things like, calorie, water intake, all that stuff that just kind of has to do with overall wellness. The one for like the drop-in people, that one is a limit of like 3 trackers, just like basics, and then whereas it'd be more unlimited and customizable for everyone who has like the premium access. The customizing of the app is also good because not everyone wants to track the same thing, and wellness just again looks different for everybody. There's also options for messaging, which can be for like the instructors or trainers, like you're running a little late or you want to reschedule. And then there's also like community forums where you can just post things like recipes, or you want to celebrate your achievements, like maybe you did your first 5K and you kind of want to get some feedback or something. So obviously I've been talking a lot about the mission because that is the driving force behind everything. It is why we're doing everything we do. And the mission is promoting community wellness, but this also means we want to make it accessible. And it also means for us to invest in the community, which we would do through the corporate social responsibility. As a way of giving back to the community, we have like a sliding scale option because we don't want finances to be a barrier for wellness, especially given the fact that there is an association with like health disparities and lower income individuals. We want to help bridge those kind of disparities. Additionally, to give back, we would have discounts for like medical providers, first responders, and so on. And then in the middle, we've got sponsorships, which I think would be a pretty huge thing, like one of our driving forces here, where we would sponsor young athletes, sponsor field trips, especially those involving nature, or school field days. On a similar note to like this sliding scale, if there are any after school programs or summer programs, especially if we're hosting them and a family cannot afford them, we would sponsor a child so that they can participate in these programs. Down the line, given again that we are in Boone, scholarships would be an amazing thing to do, especially for athletes or anyone who is majoring in anything related to wellness. And lastly, we've got over here conservation, which is huge because, again, I've been talking about how we want wellness for all, and this includes mountains and wildlife. And if we want to also just approach this kind of like holistic wellness and everything, we want to conserve the nature that is contributing to that holistic approach. And to do this and to achieve this, we would basically want to host or like sponsor cleanup programs and stuff, fundraise, and maybe donate to any specialized charities, like about a specific endangered wildlife and so on. And just as like a fun little continuation of the corporate social responsibility, just ideas on how to like fundraise, we would include merch, which I had mentioned that members would get discounted rates on. But some things that involve the fundraising approach would be selling things like stickers, t-shirts, sweatshirts, drinkware, and so on. They would be designed or made by local artists because we want to give back to the community, which means promoting local artists and stuff instead of like drop shipping and like ordering things in bulk and so on. But I think also there's like an appealing component to buying merch for a cause and from an artist you might like versus just something that has like a gym name on it. There would be standard designs, so like some related to continual like sponsoring a child or an athlete or wildlife conservation, but there would also maybe be like limited edition merch for particular events, so like a field day or 5K or something. And here's just some mock-ups that I had done, but yeah. And that brings us to the end. Thank you for watching my presentation. We hope to see you soon.